Hello again and welcome to what is the second part of an introduction to edit mode in Blender, and these tutorials are really aimed at people who want to do 3D printing and make little models. So we introduced ourselves last time. Let's look at a couple more of the tools you can use. So let's click on it and let's go tab ourselves into edit mode. We get our shapes and let's start off by selecting a face, because we're going to look at insetting, which is similar but not entirely the same as extruding. So inset is with the I key. I can press with an I and move my mouse and I can make a smaller version of a face within the face. And then I can inset again and inset again and inset again and inset again if you wanted to do that. But that's not all you can do with insetting. If I inset a face and then before I press Control, hold Control down, I can move it up and down and inset. And this is really nice for making sort of greeblies and things like this, whatever sort of shapes you want to make. We can make these quite easily with insetting. So and then you could inset another face and sort of make, especially if you want to make a sort of panel, a sci-fi panel texture, then you could do that. Now, another thing I can do, if I want to do a load of faces at once, if I select a load of faces, press inset, it will inset all the faces. But if I press inset I twice, it then does individual faces. And then I could do I again, and I could end up with a sort of panelled texture like this. There we go. I've almost got myself some sort of non-specific sci-fi box there, and it's that easy with inset, one of my favourite tools, similar to extrude. You could probably do a lot of this with extrude, but insetting is slightly easier. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is called beveling. So let's come back, let's create a cube, Shift A, create a cube. And we don't always want a nice hard edge to something. Sometimes the computer freezes up. There we go. Sometimes we want a nice soft edge. So for this we want to select an edge like this. There we go. And if I do Control and B at the same time, it will bevel it, it will smooth it out. But more than just smoothing it out to one level, if I scroll my mouse wheel up, I can get loads of bevels in and create a nice shape. Or even, if I select several edges, or let's press A to select all edges, and then Control B, I can bevel the whole of my box. If I wanted a nice rounded edge, I can do that as well. And even more than that with beveling. Another thing, once you've done it, this little box appears at the side. And I can choose a custom profile. These are all various things you can worry about later. But if I go to custom and scroll down, I get this little graph. And at the moment it's a straight line, but I can sort of do this. And I can create all sorts of different weird, I don't know why you'd want these shapes, but you can just by clicking these points. Or go back to super ellipse. So there we go. That is bevel. That is inset. And they create some nice little options. Now, another thing you might want to do. We talked last. Let's bring back a Sue. Let's have a monkey head, a Suzanne here. Here she is. And what a happy monkey. Now, one thing you can do. When we were talking in the last video about getting a particular vertex and move it around. If you want to sort of change the general shape of something, you don't just have to select one vertex, so you can select a load. But you can use what's called proportional editing, which is this little button here. If I click that, or it's O to turn it on and off, and grab something, let's go for this bit of eyeball here, I can then move, and it will sort of move all the vertices around, and depending how far I want its reach to be, I can scroll and make this circle bigger and smaller with my mouse wheel and create sort of slightly different shapes. And you don't just have to use that for getting stuff and moving stuff. If you've got it selected and you were to press scale, you could make one bit, or let's make this a nice giant eye, one bit, and you can sort of weirdly deform things. Do whatever it was you wanted to do. Let's move this ear over here. There we go. And do all sorts of weird stuff like that, which is always fun. One more trick that something when I started Blender confused me for a long time. Now, especially for 3D printing, you don't want holes in things, but what you can have, and it's never really made clear, is you can overlap objects. So if I had a square, and let's say I wanted to make a box with a button on the top, so let's select a face, let's inset it and move it in. There we go. Now I want a button on the top of my box. Either in object mode, I can shift A and create a cylinder, and press S to scale it down, G and Z to move it up on the Z axis. That works fine. But I can also, wrong button. I can also do the same thing from inside edit mode. Shift A lets me create objects inside edit mode, and they'll all be part of the same object, rather than what I did before was create two separate shapes. So now I can create the same cylinder. I can, I'll scale it. When I scaled it, everything scaled because I still had proportional editing turned on. So let's turn that off. Now I can scale it. I can't see it anymore, so let's go to wireframe mode. I can see it. I can G to get it, Z for on the Z axis. There we go. Let's go back to solid mode. I might now want to inset the top of that a little bit to make it a slightly more rounded edge. There we go. You could call that a box with a button. Let's say I want it a bit smaller. Let's grab the bottom face, get and Z. Oh no, that's too high now. Get that face and Z. There we go. A little tiny box with a button. You could use it as a greebly. It's that easy. Have a play with it. All the stuff so far has been about hard surfaces, which is good for sci-fi. There will be other videos later about different ways of doing stuff. But there you go. That is the basics of edit mode in Blender. Like the video, follow me around. Press the bell, it makes no sound. Like the video, press subscribe. I don't know why I am alive.